Well, thanks for coming to the show today, Christopher. We're going to jump right into this. No introductions here, because the less people know about you, the better.
I agree.
Exactly. But I really want to know about some things, and this is going to get a little heavy today. A lot of young people go through these days, as far as even depression, things like that, and you've had a little bit of that in your life. But you've also worked with younger kids out in California and dealt with a lot of things yourself there. And can you talk about what are some of the things you've gone through and that you've seen kids go through?
A lot of it is over time. You know, when you're a child growing up and you have your own baggage or trauma and you deal with that and you learn how to deal with it appropriately, and then working with other people, you know, working with children across the world in different countries, here from different backgrounds. For me, it's very vivid. I've condensed this down. When you have years to think about your experiences and what led you to the darkest moments of your life and how you crawled out of that, I have like these bullet points or these moments where they were very clear indicators of when I started to go down this path and when I was able to kind of overcome it. For me, I remember it being very distinct that when I started pursuing my own happiness and worrying about what I want this, I want to make myself happy, I want to do this, that was the most unhappy I ever was. And I know it sounds like a conundrum or oxymoron that you got, you know, well, you should be happier when you're serving yourself, but I was most happy when I was serving other people, when I was in a cohesive kind of relationship with my family and friends. And the darkness comes when you get alienated from that. You kind of become isolated, whether that's self-inflicted or circumstances in life cause that. For me, I didn't do any crazy stuff. What led to that darkness was just me isolating myself. I played a lot of video games, which I still like, but in moderation and a healthy way. I'll touch on an aspect that, without getting too much into it, for me, my faith is something that has helped me through it, and it's also a reason why I got to that point of turning my back on it for a moment in time. I just felt I was going to do things on my own. And by doing that, I really struggled because I don't think any of us should be doing everything on our own. When I got to the darkest moment, I didn't want to move on from this world. I wanted to be alive. I didn't want to feel pain anymore. And I remember when I first started doing small cuts, I did it on my thigh, lightly on my arm, where doing it to where no one could see it. That in itself is interesting too, because some people, they all have different feelings. I'll just talk about how I feel about it. I didn't want everyone to know, but a part of me wanted my body to reflect the pain that I felt on the inside. So I wanted that physical release of what I was feeling on the inside because no one knew. But I wasn't trying to advertise it either. I didn't get heavy into that, but that was one thing. And then I had a brief relationship that I wasn't even that into. I remember my brother asked me, he said, so what's it like, you know, being in a relationship? How's your girlfriend? And I remember telling him, as you know, enjoy being single, it's okay. And it's not to insult the other person I was with. It was, again, all about where I was at in life was not a healthy place. And when that relationship didn't end well, I took it as another load, another burden upon myself, and it just added on to that depression that I was feeling. I wasn't reaching out to family, I wasn't reaching out to friends, I wasn't asking for help, and I wasn't trying to get better. I would just throw myself deeper into gaming or being online, isolating myself. And it ended up coming to the culmination of where I grabbed one of my belts and I put it around my neck with the loop, and I had tied it to I had a high loft bed in my room, and I tied it to the top and I put all my weight on it until darkness enveloped me. And it's hard to talk about this without the spiritual aspect, which it's the crux of all of it for me. I remember in that darkness of feeling myself, the darkness closing in, that's how I can explain it, just darkness and feeling nothing and weightlessness. And then I remember hearing a voice, but feeling an emotion too. It's sometimes you say you see something, but it's more you felt it. And I felt God upset, but not upset with me, upset like a father or mother would be if their child hurt themselves because they love them so much. And I remember him just feeling this emotion of God, like, how would you let yourself get to this point? I love you. And I remember him telling me very clearly, whether it's through words or through like just putting the me feeling the emotion of it and it being spoken. It's hard to explain these things. That he said, never again. I'm going to save you this time, but never let yourself get to this point again. And that was very clear to me. It wasn't a question mark or I didn't know how. That was very clear to me. It was like an exclamation mark. Don't ever let yourself get to this point again. I love you. And I remember coming to, and I was sweating, my face was red, and I got my feet back on the ground and put myself up and got the belt off. And I was panting and gasping for air. And from that point on, I did call my parents and I told them, hey, I need help. I'm really depressed. This is what happened. I told them what I tried to do. And all of this again saying, I didn't want to end anything. I just wanted the pain to end. And in hindsight, it seems so foolish. I look at myself then and I say, well, that was not the way to get what you want. But to someone going through it, they're not thinking clearly. They're not seeing it the way healthy me is seeing it very differently than unhealthy me. It wasn't a light switch or, oh, all of a sudden I'm better. Everything's great. I had to work for months to reattune my emotions, my mind, my heart to healthy thinking, healthy feelings. I prayed a lot. Whether you want to call it prayer or meditation, just anytime the dark thoughts would come, I would push it away. That's the thing about getting better. It hurts. It's not easy. It's not like a movie where you see a montage of someone training and you see that training in 20 seconds and it inspires us because we're like, I want to get like that. I want to get strong like Rocky training, in a 30-second montage. But that's months or years for people, and it depends on the trauma you have. I don't have these really bad things that happened to me. I had to shed the burdens of what I was carrying and realize those burdens weren't mine to carry. I had to find joy, even when it seemed like there was no joy. But for me, that was a part of my journey. It's hard to condense it into those things, but the key moments that I took away from it that really led me to the darkness was I was seeking my own pleasure or happiness, and that led to the most unhappy moments of my life. After that, I started to serve people. I did humanitarian work overseas. I volunteered places locally, and that made me really happy to change other people's lives. And I work with children, now I have for many years, to inspire them, to help them, to give them hope. That brings me joy. Not sitting at home doing whatever makes me happy all the time.
I want to touch on that a little bit more because we hear so much about do what makes you happy. Or parents saying this or on TV. Well, what makes you happy? And I think there's a difference between saying what you're passionate about, find what you love to do, what does make you happy, but not everything in the moment is about you. And at least I don't believe that. And I feel like you're absolutely touching on it here, and we're maybe going to get some angry comments, and that's fine, because I think we've gone too long in this country and around the world of what makes you happy, but I think that's the wrong thinking. You do need to take care of yourself, but I think you are happier and or you can do better and you have better mental health, in my opinion, if you put others before you. Can you touch on that a little bit more?
You're 100% right. And people who are going to twist your words out of context, so people, no matter what you say, they'll try to twist something you say. In no way are you or I saying that don't do things you like to do, or don't eat a pizza if you like eating pizza, or play video games. I still play video games. I love to have fun, and strategic, games stimulate that part of me. Like it's like playing chess. It's a way to connect with friends too. What we're talking about, hopefully it's clearly to people who are understanding in this sense, is that Moderation. Right? If you eat 2 pizzas a day, that's really unhealthy for you. I don't think we're going to have anyone argue that that's good for you. If you're throwing yourself into something or you only care about yourself, that's very unhealthy. And to touch on what you said, yes, in culture today, it's very clear that there's this movement where there's these people, whether it's in parenting groups or school or through music or television, everyone says, do what makes you happy. You're fine the way you are. I think that we're all great and that there's goodness in all of us. So I'm not saying you're not a good person the way you are, but you are not fine the way you are. 2-year-olds, we don't tell them when they want to take someone else's toy. That's okay. Do whatever you feel like. We train children to work in society, to be healthy-minded individuals. And as adults, that doesn't stop. We're always trying to improve. If I want to become a father and a good husband, I am daily having to consider my actions, my feelings, and are those good for my wife? Are those good for, I don't have children yet, but if I did, are those good for the children? When I work with children, children can make a lot of noise. They can do things that annoy anyone, even if you work with them. And I'll check myself and say, am I irritated right now because what they're doing is wrong? Or do I need to let that part of myself die, that annoyance, and just say they're being a child and having fun right now? And I'll often find that I'm the one with the problem. And so I agree with you. I think we need a lot less of that feeling of, whatever makes you happy. It often becomes an excuse to be whatever kind of person you want, and that doesn't always go in a good direction.
Well, I think we talk about, if you go to a sports analogy, if an athlete wants to just be happy, well, you're probably going to be a fat slob.
No.
If you want to be the best, you're going to make yourself unhappy and be very uncomfortable because you have to train hard. Not just physical, you got mental training, whatever that sport might be, you're going to be unhappy. Now, some people say, oh, I'm happy when I'm just getting ripped up and torn up and my trainer's, really working me hard.
Yeah.
You got to go through some tough things to make yourself a better version of you or a better person.
One of the kids I work with, he was working out and he was struggling. And he told me that his trainer is, he's doing personal training, told him that pain is weakness leaving the body. It's not always the case, but we get what it means in this moment, that when they're working out and you feel like I can't go on, I feel like quitting, which comes really quick. Even I work out sometimes, I'm trying to do more and more. I feel that every time I work out, I'll hit this point where I want to give up. It doesn't matter how many times I've done it, I want to give up. And I have to shut that part of myself down and push past it, because that's how growth happens. Growth comes through tribulation, through struggle.
So let's switch over to what you've experienced with young people in California. And I believe some of it has been through troubled teenagers who have been sent to programs. And I don't know everything about it, but kind of let's switch to what you've been through, to what you've experienced to and helping other kids. But I also want you to touch on, did your experience that you went through also help you deal with some children? Or I say children, but young people.
Yeah. I worked with children of all different backgrounds, ages, special needs, to, everything. And my experience taught me patience and grace, understanding for other people. Whether I went through something similar to them or not, I know not to judge people, but to love them. That doesn't mean that everyone gets a pass on everything they do. When I work with children, I try to push them towards greatness, to push them towards a little bit of self-reliance. Essentially, when you work with children, you want to give them the tools. When they run into problems in their lives, they can figure out, they have the path to work through their issues. I worked with children that were at placement centers. That's where you get sent to juvenile hall, and then from juvenile hall you go to placement, or sometimes you go to placement. One of the saddest things for me is to see someone who got dealt a bad hand in life, and you try to help them, and you can't tell them, oh, well, do A, B, and C, and you're fine. Everyone's different. What worked for me at the time, I can't tell them a magical combination of words that will fix them. I just can only help and love and hope that they figure it out. The sad part for me is wanting to save someone or help someone, and they don't know how to save themselves. They don't want to save themselves. or they think that they're completely fine on the path they're on, which obviously is not working out for them, judging on the fact that they are where they are. Working in that field was really hard because other people that worked in the placement, kids would get in fights. And when I say kids, they're 18 years old, 17 years old. Fights could get really nasty. And I've always been a person who charges in to save someone, whether that's a good quality or bad quality. Sometimes you charge in and you get yourself way over your head in something because you just wanted to help. But I would break up fights, and so many of the other staff members, they wouldn't do anything. And they would openly say, I don't get paid enough to do this. I'm not going to get hurt. Some of them, I don't blame them. They were little people, and these kids are as big as me. I'm 6'3", and they were as big as me and just as muscular or bigger. It was just so hard to be in that environment, insults thrown at each other every day. You get this hopelessness that can set in, but I focused on helping each child I could, because they would try to pick at you. They'd try to find your weakness. But sometimes it was just to confirm their own bias of that, oh, no one cares about me. And if I push your buttons enough, I can show you that you don't care about me, or I'll make you give up like everyone else has. And I didn't let myself get to that point. And then I would see kids change. I remember there was a group of kids that started wanting to go to church. And these are tough kids from the street. But they would go there, and I would see a joy, a light in their eyes. They would come home and talk about how I want to be a better person. It doesn't matter if you believe in God or not. It doesn't matter which religion you are, if you have one. There is a joy that comes from seeing someone have a fire lit under them in the sense of wanting to be a better person, having hope, wanting to change. And that really inspired me. And I found it really shocking that other staff were trying to hold that back. There was a lot of staff that I didn't struggle as much with the kids as I did with other adults that thought, why are you doing this? They would tell me to my face, why are you doing this? These kids are a lost cause. And that saddened me. You work here, and your whole goal is to be trying to rehabilitate them and help them live a healthy life. Sorry, I got off a little bit on the weeds on that, but...
No, I want to touch on that, though, because some people say, hey, there's this 10-step program or 5-step, or do this and that outwardly, and you'll be a better person and whatever. But I think there's more on the inside, and I would always say, you hear this all the time, oh, they have a beautiful personality. Well, okay, for a young guy, you're like, okay, I know what that means. I don't want to date her,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But there's a truth to the spiritual side. I think that the solution is not a program. It starts internally.
I had a professor at school, and I love this because I was really struggling. I was working with the kids, and I was trying to help them, and I was really struggling with how to do it and getting discouraged because I was facing so much resistance to what was clearly good for them and what they wanted, positive change. And my professor didn't know I was going through this stuff. He drew a circle on the board, a small circle, and then a big circle around it. So it looks like a donut. He said, the things inside the little circle, those are the things you can control. I can control what I say. I can control what I think, what I do, my actions. He said, then the bigger circle is the things you can't control. What other people say, how other people act, the weather, whatever. And he said, where are you spending a majority of your energy? Is it in that smaller circle of the things you can control? He said, if it's in the outer circle, the bigger circle, well, number one, you're wasting your time and you have no control over that. So you're just setting yourself up for failure. And we've all heard stuff like that before, but sometimes when you hear it, whether it's the 10th time or the 11th time, you were ready to hear it, and it just clicked with me. And then I focused on the things I could do. I started shrugging off the things that I couldn't control, and that goes to what you were saying about how working on yourself. I look now at my history of what I went through and working with the kids, because you asked me that earlier. It really has helped me work with them, but also realizing how to just healthily manage life, whether the good and the bad, to have great perspective. And I will say that since that time when I was younger, I never let myself get back to that point again. I knew the dangers of it. Through the hard work in the building, I knew that that's not a place that I'll never go again, period. It doesn't matter if the worst things, I lose my job, I lose all my money, it doesn't matter. I won't get to that point again. I'll build myself back up again.
When you're dealing with kids, do you ever talk about, or do you ever think about When you go through things in life, are you a victim or are you an overcomer?
My favorite stories growing up, reading books, movies, it's someone who persevered, a person who doesn't see themselves as a victim. They overcome the obstacles to become a hero. I'll get upset on children's behalf. I'll say this, it does infuriate me when people teach children, live in this box, you are a victim. I hate that. What story are you teaching the kid? What are you trying to teach the child? That there's nothing you can do because you are a victim. No matter what you do, you're a victim for various reasons. It doesn't matter. You're born into a bad situation. Teach them to overcome their situation. Give them hope. Don't give them hopelessness. That's just sad. And it destroys their life. And what does it do to you? You feel better for preaching your belief system at them that, oh, you're a victim, you can't help it. Someone else, the boogeyman out there is trying to keep you down. I'm not saying there's not real obstacles. That's the whole point, is to overcome them. All our favorite stories, it doesn't matter who you are, left, right, center, rich, poor, whatever skin color you have, we all gravitate and admire people who overcome obstacles and persevere in the face of adversity. Look at the Olympics. We look at the Olympics and we cheer even other people from other countries on when we see that they've overcome some great, trauma or obstacle in their life.
Let's go a little bit further with this, a little deeper. And we might lose some people here, but that's okay. A lot of people want to discount the spiritual. What's more important? Is it what's here right now, what's real in front of us that we can touch? Is it spiritual? And I'm going to go where people don't want to go here, and I don't care. Let's talk about religion a little bit. You've got some training as a pastor or a minister. If you can touch on that a little bit. You went to LABI, I think, in California.
It's a Bible school, yeah.
And so there's this part of your life that you have, and that you have a belief in, and so do I. But a lot of people want to say, if I can't touch it, if I can't fix it, if I can't, a counselor can't, a doctor or counselor can't prescribe a drug or something. When sometimes I say it's not a drug that you need, and it's not necessarily a counselor you need, there's something spiritually going on in your life. And I think too, this is why I really like what you've done with kids that you've dealt with, is it's not a program, it's not, you follow these steps and you're going to be fine. No, it's, let's look at the person individually, but if you only look at that person individually and you discount the spiritual aspect, my opinion is that you are making a tremendous mistake.
I agree. And it's hard to talk about the subject without, I guess I have to stop worrying what other people, what will they think? We all have our own experiences. We can speak freely about ours. We're not insulting anyone else's lived experiences. For me, I don't know how to tell you how to deal with these huge cataclysmic events in your life without, for me, believing in something greater than myself. The people that have really always been there for me, or the true love. There's an unconditional love. That's something that's really been resonating with me over the past couple of years, is thinking about unconditional love. Most of our love, just worldwide, whether you're in a marriage, parents and children, there's a form of unconditional love, but true unconditional love is so rare. That's a love where if someone, you look at today's society, if someone votes different than you, whichever side it is, you're not friends anymore. Your whole lifelong friendship is over because we disagree on some political matter. Look at other things, religion. Oh, you believe this now, I can't be your friend anymore. I think that's ridiculous. I think it's so shallow. And I think it's a really sad state of the world when we are, I don't care who you choose to love, who you choose to be. I'm going to love you regardless because you're my family, you're my friend. I'm not going to stop loving you. I may disagree with you. That's another thing, real quick to touch on that. I don't have to agree with you to love you. Agreeing with you and loving you are not the same thing. I disagree with things that I do, my own choices. And I disagree with things that my wife does. That doesn't mean I don't love her. I love her very much. I love myself. That's okay to disagree with people, but we got to continue loving each other. There was a key moment in my recovery when I was crying. I remember I was in my bed. I was feeling just hopeless and dejected. And this is in my recovery process. This is after I said I want to get better. And you have moments like that. It's almost like a drug addict will have their withdrawals where you fall off the wagon, so to speak. My stepmom came up to the side of my bed, and my dad was there too, and they prayed for me. And I remember falling asleep when they prayed for me. And when I woke up, an hour and a half, 2 hours later, my stepmom was still there at the foot of the bed, holding on to my foot. I was under these blankets, but she was holding on to my foot, praying for me and crying out for me. And that will forever be a moment that I'll never let go of. And knowing that selfless love that she gave, even when I wasn't awake. No one was there to see it. No one was there to acknowledge her, oh, great job, you're a great mother. Later on, when she ended up having cancer, I went and helped them overseas and covered for them when she went to her chemo treatments. And I remember getting there the night before she passed away, and I laid by her feet as she sat in a chair much like the one you're sitting in. And she had the morphine drip in and tumors all over her body. And I laid by her feet all night, and I held on to her leg. And it wasn't something I tried to do. She was in a chair, so there's no comfortable place for me to be. But in hindsight, I realized that this full circle, I held on to her leg, and I just prayed for her. And anytime she woke up in pain, I would caress her head. I would wake up and I'd tell her, I'm here, and pray for her, or sing songs to her. We used to sing like lullabies. And to be able to give a little bit of that selfless love back, it's a touching moment for me, and it doesn't come from me. I'm not a good person. I'm not a great person. She was not a just great person as she was. The person that she became that led to that, the person that I became that led to that, was through spiritual development, through my belief in God, to make myself a better person and to put other people first. If I was putting myself first, I would say, oh, I'm so sorry you're going through this. I'm going to go sleep in my comfortable bed, and hopefully you'll be here in the morning and I'll check on you. It's hard to explain any of these things without God, because that's what led me out of it. Even in my story of that darkest moment, it was God coming and speaking to me. Whether you believe in that or not, that's fine. That's what saved me.
I want to switch gears slightly, because a lot of what you're saying is really critical. I've experienced this with a lot of people at work and other friends too that I don't work with. And these true friendships have come about over time where absolutely disagree on religion, politics, and we do our best to stay away from them.
Sports teams, whatever.
Yeah. And what I found though is there's a respect for that person and the ability to listen to them and let them talk without throwing in what you think and you trying to win the argument. You can be friends and absolutely disagree. I will say there are times when somebody might be so toxic and so different that you have to separate ways.
Yeah.
But I really think it's important for people these days to, again, there is a spiritual side, absolutely 100% agree with you. But then on an everyday basis, when we are talking and disagree, sometimes you should probably walk away from that conversation. But then there's other times where it's like, listen to that person. Hear what they have to say. You don't have to agree, but you can be great friends and disagree completely.
Yeah, I echo that sentiment 100%. And what you're talking about is healthy boundaries. You can love someone and have healthy boundaries. If someone is abusive to you and they're treating you like trash or bullying you, you don't have to say, hey, I'm your best bud. You're putting yourself in a position, especially if they're not showing any signs that they acknowledge the wrong that's being done or that they're going to change. You need to protect yourself or your family or whoever. If you're just disagreeing, as you said, even if it's something that really matters to you, if someone said, I believe in this or I don't believe in that, okay, we're still cordial to each other. We still love each other. We have a lot more in common. Most people on planet Earth have a lot more in common than we do the differences that separate us. We used to know that. I think lately, for whatever reason, the focus is always on what makes us different. That to me is sad. It's to why keep us divided? I want to touch on something though that based on that, and you made me kind of dwell on this. All the success stories I've had working with children, and I've had a lot, I work with true children now that when I came into the home, they both struggle with special needs. They both came from an abusive, very abusive background, and they're with a new family now, and I was hired to work with these children. Now they were going to therapy, counseling, ABA, which is applied behavioral analysis, all these different everything you can think of to try to curb maladaptive behaviors, whether it's tantrums. I'll put it in terms that there were such bad behaviors that they would have to leave the room because whatever was around could be used as a weapon to attack anyone around them. I came in, and I think what's effective is when I work with children to show them I live by example. So I don't just tell them what they need to do. When they push me to the breaking point of, oh, everyone else snaps at this point and I don't snap and I still love them. And I would tell the boy that even after he did stuff and he wasn't proud of and he's crying, I would tell him, hey, I still love you. What you did is not okay. I don't approve of this behavior. You hurt this person and that's not okay. And there are consequences for that. And we have to show that there are consequences for that. But I told him, I still love you. Nothing you do will make me stop loving you. Same with, it's a boy and girl. Same with the girl. I love you. Nothing you do will make, no behavior, no word you say, no action you take will make me stop loving you. I'm still going to be here and I will always be your friend. And in 2 years' time, you would not recognize the children. You would not even know they came from the background they came from. They are so loving and so selfless in their love, talking to other people. There was a point where their parents couldn't leave them alone if they took them to a class, such as karate or acting class, theatrical production class. They couldn't leave them. They had to be there watching like a hawk the whole time, because what if something sets off my child? It's an emergency. Or they couldn't put them in certain groups. And now they can leave them, go do their grocery shopping, come back and pick them up, whatever they need to do, because the radical change. And that's what, for me, the culmination of this is, the skills that I've learned is not to, how to be perfect or like say these words or like you said, a 10-step program this will fix your child. Every child's different, every person's unique in that way. Nothing works for everyone, except when I live by example and I show them with my actions, I live it out. I don't preach at them with my words. I live out by example what love is, how to let go of your anger, how to be patient. That's the biggest thing, is kids latch on to that and they thirst for acceptance and love. Kids, all they want is someone to believe in them, to love them, to care for them.
You're hitting on something else that's really, I think, critical. You're probably not even thinking I'm going to bring this up, but I'm going to.
Well, I don't know what you're going to say.
Yeah, I could go anywhere. But here's the thing. These kids that you're helping right now and that you have helped, they have a strong man in their life who loves and is not afraid to show emotion and to tell them they love that, or you to tell them they're loved. But that's not weakness. And you don't have to be this big tough guy. And I know you can take probably me down, and I need to work on some martial arts to make sure I stay, even with you. But I mean, I'm joking a little bit, but
yeah,
you are a strong man, and I'm not going to mince words with this here. You're a strong Christian man, but that you also know how to be tough when you need to be, but you also know how to love.
Toughness isn't your ability to inflict damage on others or the world around you. I think it's your ability to endure hardships. That's what I see as a tough man. So many men, you look at it this way. If you meet any family or man, you say, would you die for your sister, your wife, your girlfriend, your mother, your family, that child? So many men would say, yeah, I'd jump in front of the car, I'd jump in front of the bullet. And for a lot of them, I think they would. I legitimately do. Now, if you ask that same man, would you live daily for them? Would you sacrifice your own joy or comfort for them? You're going to get a different answer. And you can actually see it by the way that they live their lives. You don't even have to hear their word. You can look at how they live their life. There are a lot of abusive fathers or absentee fathers that would say they would die for their family, but they won't live for them. That's a conundrum right there. What does your kid want more from you? For you to live for them and be there for them? To show up for them when it matters emotionally, or to train them, to teach them? What if your kid wants to play sports and they're struggling? You don't just get frustrated with them and say, well, okay, you can quit. Maybe get out there and work with them on it. One similar thing in all the kids I've worked with, almost across the board, is if it's behavioral issues, I see a poor family life. So many people say, well, they want to put it on the school or a church or an organization or after school program to fix their kids. They can't fix your kids because they have a small little window to work with your children. If you drop your child off at school, you'll have teachers, maybe the kid transfers from class to class and your teacher's teaching them history or math. They're not there to teach them all the values they need. They may try. A lot of teachers care about the children deeply, but it's the home life that's shaping your children. You can't blame TV if you're the one putting your kids in front of TV all the time. We do need more strong male role models. And across the board, one thing I really see kids latch on to, there's not a lot of men in the field working with children, but children thirst for that kind of male role model, the one who can, they don't want the tough guy in that sense, but just tough. They want to see that different reaction. They want to see that kind of brotherly or fatherly attention and love, someone that will push them and not just coddle or baby them, but with love, like you said, with understanding. I became a great basketball player because my older stepbrother would whoop my butt every day playing with me, and he didn't take it easy on me, and I didn't want him to. And finally, through all that work and being beaten over and over and over again, I got better, and then I started to beat him. And I'm very thankful for that experience. I didn't want him to coddle me or baby me.
This subject should go a lot farther, and we got a lot of things going on. I need to let you go today, but I want to come out to California sometime, or maybe we'll meet up in the Sierra Nevada someplace at a real campfire, because I think this conversation of going further with real men that know how to be tough, that know how to love and take care of their family and raise them correctly, well, along with a good mother.
Yeah.
It's an important topic, and I'm not afraid to touch this topic because we're getting too far away from it in our culture. And there's so many things I could love to talk to you about, from your experience overseas in Central America. Your father's a missionary, and there's so many things we could go with this. But your dad's also a tough guy in a way that he knows how to be tough, but to love. And I really want to get together again. And so wrap up with some final thoughts here, but I want to get to this in the future where we talk more about what a real man should be like.
And wrapping it up, touching on what you just said, my father is the best role model I could ever ask for. He is the same person behind closed doors and at home that he is outside at work in front of other people, whether we're building homes for the poor, whether he's at church, whatever he's doing at the grocery store. He is the same person there that he is at home. And I would not be the man I am today without my father. I love my mother. She is amazing. I can sing her praises all day too, but there is something about the love, the sacrifice, and discipline, the strength that one thing my father taught me, because he suffered, and I saw that as a kid. I saw him never skip a beat, never stop to worry about himself. He put us children first when he went through struggles. And that really taught me strength. Is if he can do it, and I saw where his strength came from, that I can do it. And to this day, I look at my dad and how many people's lives he's changed. People that are alive today. I'm not talking metaphorically or emotionally, that are alive today because of him. And I want to be that person. I want to be the person that helps others and leaves this world a better place than when I came into it.
You're also making me think about mentorship.
Yeah.
Let's leave on this note. One, being a great father, being a great man, and knowing what that really means, but also mentor the young men, and I say women too, but I want to say men, real men, mentoring the young men. It's a
for sure a lost art. Mentorship is so important. There are a lot of families that don't have a strong male role model for various reasons, whether someone passed away, whether there's issues with abandonment, a lot of other reasons. You can be that role model to someone else. You can mentor someone else. You have to make sure you're in a healthy place first. The children I work with right now, I mentor them and I work with them almost as a father figure because they don't have a father in their life. Their father has passed away, their birth father, and they were adopted, but there's no father in the house. Having that male role model and mentoring them and teaching them, hey, when you go through this situation and someone says a bad word to you, calls you a bad name, don't react. I try to teach them, don't be reactionary, be above that, think outside that, because then you can more accurately make a better decision. You can make a decision that's not just best for you now, but best for your future. And that really clicks. And I will say this for mentoring. So many people say, oh, that might be a lot of work, it might drain me. I promise you, if you mentor someone, it will fill you up, like energize you more than it'll drain you, 100%.
Let's end on that. And I'm serious about getting together with you at a real campfire someday. But thanks for joining me today. And I look forward to visiting with you a lot more in the future.
My pleasure. Thank you.